Supreme was once more than just a clothing brand. It was a movement, a status symbol, a key to belonging. People didn't just buy Supreme, they chased it, camped outside stores for hours, battled online bots, and paid huge resale prices for items that were sometimes as simple as a crowbar, a brick, or a plain t-shirt with a boxed logo. But this story isn't just about fashion. It's about culture, business, money, hype, and what happens when a brand forgets the people who made it great. To tell the story of Supreme's fall, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. A time when the brand wasn't famous, wasn't commercial, and certainly wasn't worth billions of dollars. Because every rise starts small, and every fall has clues long before the crash. Let's begin. In 1994, New York City was nothing like the polished version you see today. It was loud, raw, unpredictable, and full of culture. In the middle of downtown Manhattan, James Yebbia opened a small skateboard shop on Lafayette Street. He wasn't trying to create a global empire. He simply wanted a place where skaters could hang out, buy gear, and feel understood. From day one, Supreme wasn't interested in appealing to everyone. It didn't try to be friendly or mainstream. Instead, it was the opposite: exclusive, tightly connected to skate culture, and almost mysterious in the way it operated. It felt like a club, and if you didn't understand it, you simply weren't part of it. This exclusivity wasn't a marketing strategy. It was the natural way of the brand. The store layout was different, the people were different, the attitude was different. And then there was the now famous box logo. Red background, bold white font, inspired by the artwork of Barbara Kruger. Simple, clean, and somehow powerful. In the early years, Supreme stayed underground. No loud advertising, no big campaigns, no huge production. Everything was limited. Everything was for the people who truly loved the culture. Back then, the idea of clothing reselling for hundreds or thousands of dollars didn't exist. Supreme wasn't produced to create hype, it was produced to express identity. But something unexpected soon happened. The internet. It didn't take long for the online world to discover this mysterious streetwear brand with tiny drops and huge cultural power. And once the internet entered the picture, everything began to change. Around the mid to late 2000s, streetwear forums like Hypebeast, Nike Talk, and early Reddit threads started talking about Supreme. Pictures of box logos, rare hoodies, unique collaborations, and even simple accessories began to spread like wildfire. Suddenly, the world outside New York discovered Supreme. People were fascinated. Why were the quantities so low? Why did items disappear instantly? Why did fans seem loyal to the point of obsession? This mystery sparked a new kind of hunger, a hunger for exclusivity. As discussions grew, resale culture started to form. Items that originally sold for $150 began reselling for $500, sometimes even more. Season after season, the growth continued. Anyone who owned Supreme wasn't just wearing clothing, they were signaling that they belonged to a cultural moment that others were desperate to join. By 2011, the lines outside Supreme stores grew longer and longer. People camped overnight. Some brought chairs, snacks, blankets, and friends, turning the sidewalk into a ritual. Supreme had become more than a skate brand. It had become an investment. Strangely, the brand didn't change its formula. It didn't increase supply as demand exploded. It didn't release more accessories or restock old items. It simply continued doing what it always did. Limited releases every Thursday at 11 a.m., no exceptions, no second chances. This choice was genius. It created a loop: limited supply, rising demand, rising prices, and rising hype. Everyone wanted in, but only a few succeeded. And anything hard to get becomes more desirable. Supreme was becoming unstoppable. And then, the brand reached heights no one thought possible.
From 2016 to 2018, Supreme was at the absolute peak of its power. Celebrities wore it, rappers mentioned it in lyrics, skaters swore by it, collectors treasured it, and luxury fans admired it. Supreme had successfully crossed the line between streetwear and luxury fashion. The moment that changed everything was the Supreme x Louis Vuitton collaboration in 2017. This was the crossover no one expected. A one-time skate shop partnering with a historic French luxury fashion house. The collection was red, loud, iconic, and instantly recognizable. Hoodies from that collection retailed for over $1,000, but resold for more than $7,000. Celebrities like Kanye West, Tyler, the Creator, Travis Scott, and athletes from all over the world proudly wore Supreme. Social media exploded with images of people flexing their items. Owning Supreme wasn't just about fashion, it was a status symbol, a way of saying, I'm part of something elite. Supreme accessories went viral. They sold a brick, yes, an actual construction brick, regular, plain, but with the Supreme logo. It retailed for around $30 and resold for over $1,000. They sold crowbars, kayaks, nunchucks, even fire extinguishers, and people bought them without hesitation. Supreme had become bigger than logic, bigger than trends, bigger than fashion. But something was happening behind the scenes that would eventually push the brand into decline. In November 2017, the Carlyle Group, one of the most powerful private equity firms in the world, purchased a 50% stake in Supreme for $500 million. This valued the brand at $1 billion. For many fans, this was the beginning of the end. Supreme, the anti-establishment, anti-corporate underground skate brand, had now partnered with Wall Street. To some, it felt like betrayal. The brand that once stood for authenticity suddenly felt commercial, and cracks began to form. By 2019, the energy around Supreme was changing. People started noticing that items weren't selling out instantly. Some box logo hoodies sat online longer than usual. What used to disappear in seconds now lasted minutes, even hours. Resale prices started dropping. A hoodie that once resold for over $1,000 now sold for much less. The hype wasn't vanishing overnight, but it was weakening. The reasons were clear. Reason number one, oversaturation. Supreme was releasing so many items every week that the sense of rarity faded. New collections were bigger, more predictable, and less exciting. When something becomes too available, people value it less. What made Supreme special was scarcity. When scarcity disappears, hype dies. Reason number two, bots and resellers took over. By this time, buying Supreme manually became almost impossible. Bots, automated programs, would buy items faster than any human could click. Real fans couldn't get anything. Only resellers with expensive software succeeded. This created a strange situation where resellers were selling to other resellers, which eventually caused the market to collapse. If everyone is trying to sell and no one actually wants to keep the items, demand drops fast. Reason number three, culture moved on. By 2020, a new generation was rising. Gen Z was more interested in vintage fashion, sustainability, and brands with strong, authentic values. Supreme, once seen as cool, now looked corporate, repetitive, and stuck in the past. What used to be a sign of exclusivity started feeling like a sign of trying too hard. And then came the final blow.
In November 2020, Supreme was purchased by VF Corporation, the same company that owns Vans, The North Face, and Timberland, for a massive $2.1 billion. This was the moment the founders cashed out completely. For fans, this was more confirmation that Supreme was no longer the rebellious underground brand they once loved. It had become another part of a corporate fashion machine. While the sale brought financial success, it also erased the brand's mysterious outsider identity. Supreme was now mainstream, and when something becomes mainstream, it loses the magic that made it special in the first place. After the sale, Supreme continued releasing collections, but fewer people cared. Lines outside stores got shorter, resale prices dropped even more. New generations of fans looked for something fresh, something real, something that understood them. Supreme had become predictable, and predictability is the enemy of hype. Supreme is still alive. It still drops new items every Thursday. It is still profitable, still known worldwide, and still part of streetwear history. But the truth is simple. Supreme is no longer culturally relevant. What used to be the most exciting brand now blends into the background. Items that once resold for huge profits now barely sell for retail. Stores that once had lines around the block now sit quiet. The hype moved on to new brands. Off-White brought fresh ideas, Virgil Abloh changed the game, Cortez and other independent labels connected more with today's youth. They spoke directly to their communities, stayed independent, and didn't chase investors or massive corporations. Supreme, once the leader,
now seemed like it was following trends instead of shaping them. But there are deeper lessons here. Supreme's fall isn't just a story about streetwear. It's a lesson for any brand, business, or creator. Lesson 1. Hype cannot last forever. Hype is powerful, but it's also temporary. It creates excitement, but excitement doesn't last unless it's supported by real value. A brand can use hype to grab attention, but if hype becomes the entire foundation, cracks eventually appear. Supreme relied heavily on the thrill of limited drops and skyrocketing resale prices. But hype rises fast and falls even faster. Once people realized the products were becoming less rare and less meaningful, the emotional rush disappeared. Brands that survive long-term understand that hype is a spark, not a fuel source. Without deeper purpose behind it, hype eventually burns out completely. Lesson 2. If you build a culture, don't abandon it. Supreme created a strong community built around skate culture, individuality, and rebellion. Fans felt connected to the brand because it stood against the mainstream, but when Supreme partnered with private equity and eventually a large corporation, many loyal customers felt disconnected. It seemed like the brand had left its roots behind for profit. When a company forgets the people who supported it from the beginning, those people eventually walk away. Authenticity can't be purchased, and once it's gone, it's incredibly hard to regain. A loyal culture is priceless, but only if the brand continues to honor and protect it. Lesson 3. Culture changes quickly. Fashion and culture move faster than ever. What feels exciting one year can seem outdated the next. Supreme once led the culture, setting trends and shaping the way people dressed. But the brand didn't adapt as the world changed. Younger audiences wanted fresh ideas, new aesthetics, and meaningful stories behind the clothing they wore. Supreme's formula stayed the same for too long, and eventually the excitement around the brand faded. Brands must grow with their audience instead of relying on old patterns. When culture evolves and a brand refuses to evolve with it, relevance slips away before anyone notices.
Lesson 4. Scarcity only works when it feels real. Supreme's power came from true scarcity. Fans believed every piece was rare because supply was naturally limited. But once drops became larger and more frequent, the scarcity started to feel forced rather than genuine. People can sense when exclusivity is manufactured rather than authentic. When the brand began overproducing, the magic disappeared. Scarcity only works when it feels honest, not when it becomes a business trick. Consumers want rarity because it feels special, not because a brand tells them it should be special. Once that trust breaks, even limited products lose their impact, and the hype stops working. Lesson 5. Legacy matters more than hype. A strong brand isn't built on hype alone. Legacy is created through consistent identity, meaningful storytelling, and long-term loyalty from fans. Supreme grew quickly because of hype, but it didn't invest enough in lasting value. Hype made the brand explode, but it also trapped Supreme in a cycle of constant expectations and fast excitement. Legacy grows slowly and stays steady, while hype burns bright and then disappears. Supreme chose the path of hype, and although it brought massive success, it also caused the eventual downfall. When a brand focuses on purpose instead of quick attention, it stays strong for generations. Many fans wonder if Supreme can return to its peak. The answer is complicated. Supreme still has name recognition, history, and a unique identity. But culture isn't nostalgic. Young people don't care about past success. They care about connection, authenticity, and relevance. If Supreme wants to make a true comeback, it would need smaller drops, more authentic collaborations, a return to skate culture, fewer corporate decisions, more direct connection with fans, less mass production, more creative risks. But even with all that, the world has changed. Streetwear has changed. People have changed. And sometimes when a brand becomes too big, it can never truly return to its roots. Supreme might survive financially for years, but it may never again be the cultural giant it once was.
Because once authenticity is gone, it doesn't come back. Let me know in the comments, did you ever own Supreme? And do you think the brand can make a comeback? If you enjoyed this story and want more videos that explain how brands grow, change, and sometimes collapse, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.